Welcome to the Tyler Werner Show, discussing all the latest in Philadelphia sports.
I just felt comfortable, confident and comfortable.
Man, I love y'all. I hope y'all keep trusting the process.
And now, here's Tyler Werner.
And welcome all to the Tyler Werner Show, a big edition, as we're now in the month of September. And we're just about to get underway with Week 1 in the NFL regular season 2018. No more preseason. The Eagles, whoopity-doo, they win their last preseason game and avoid that vaunted 0-4 preseason, albeit in a 10-9 game where it was really just about cutting the rest of the roster down to size, getting the 53 all set, ready to go. And I'll tell you what, this edition is of the Tyler Werner Show. We're obviously going to go down the regular season schedule. We'll save that a little bit later in the Tyler Werner Show today. Run down week by week before we officially get underway with the Atlanta Falcons visiting the Philadelphia Eagles week 1 here. And we'll talk a little bit about the game, of course, but because obviously the major storyline here is Carson Wentz, and was he going to be able to suit up? And I was, this whole time, I was pessimistic about that idea, and I think maybe they're going to wait until maybe week 3 to start him. That's just me. And at this point, there is a report that came out from an NFL Network reporter, for that matter, that Carson Wentz's doctor, that he's basically not yet cleared for contact, and it's not, it doesn't come as any surprise. They want to make sure that he is 100% ready to go from the doctor's perspective. I mean, you don't want to be that doctor that say, clears Carson Wentz perhaps early, and then he gets hurt and would, somehow re-injure the ACL or whatever that nightmare scenario is. Well, that's going to be avoided altogether. So, Doug Pederson, Dougie. We've seen in recent weeks, and it's been, I don't know, it's just kind of been sudden. It's been gradually, I guess, over the course of this preseason, where Doug Pederson has gotten increasingly snarky, snippy with the media.
Come on, that's terrible!
I mean, I don't know what's... I don't know what's gotten into Doug. I mean, look, I know a lot of people, they're going to say, oh, well, the media, they're just being stupid. They're not. The media, as far as I'm concerned, they are trying to bring information to the fan base. And topic 1A, when it comes to the Philadelphia Eagles, is Carson Wentz and his readiness. Is he cleared to play? Could he suit up for week 1 against the Atlanta Falcons? And we're going to get into this Doug Pederson press conference early. This was a Sunday press conference, for those who didn't hear it. Doug Pederson addressing the media. There's just been this, I don't know, this dissension with Doug in the media as of late. Now, I don't understand why. I don't know if it's because the team, hasn't looked good in the preseason. It's only preseason. Doug says himself that a lot of these guys he's keeping out intentionally. Put Carson Wentz aside. A lot of these guys could be out there playing in the preseason games. They're out there practicing, according to Doug Pederson. But playing in the preseason games, no. And for all intensive purposes, and I guess preseason games that I guess somewhat mattered to some extent, the Eagles were 0-3 in. Which again, I said last week, I did last time on the Tyler Werner Show, what do I care? But at the same time, there's this, I don't know, is there this unpreparedness, it seems? Is Doug nervous about Nick Foles here in the early going? I don't know. Has the way this Eagles team won the Super Bowl and now how they've looked in the preseason, I don't know, has that gotten to Doug a little bit? Because he just seems like a totally different guy dealing with the media. I mean, the media they're asking fair questions in regards to the quarterback situation of this team, because you got Nick Foles, who has struggled in the preseason, and again, yeah, albeit it's preseason. And you got Carson Wentz, who we're all itching to see back out there. I'm itching to see back out there and leading this team again. And probably going to have to wait. And Doug is just, I mean, let's get to the press conference. We're going to hit it hard early here in the Tyler Werner Show with this. This was Sunday. Doug Pederson's press conference with the media, and right off the bat, Doug sarcastically, I just want to thank you guys for putting words in my mouth.
Come on, that's terrible!
Let's take a listen to Doug addressing the media. Well, in the very beginning, refusing to address the media at his Sunday press conference.
I appreciate y'all putting words in my mouth this week, and therefore, I'm not going to discuss it.
How were words put in your mouth?
You saw the reports.
What report?
Next question. Next question.
Who here put the words in?
Next question.
I know, but what reporter here put the words in your mouth?
I'm not answering the question.
I know, but you said you.
That's the rule.
Well, that makes no sense. You're not going to lump
Appreciate
us all
it.
together. Okay.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
All right.
I'm going to lump you all together.
Okay, well, that's good. We're asking a fair question.
What's the point of this? I mean,
Exactly. What is the point of this? It's my decision.
and you're not going to discuss your decision.
No.
So why are you
Not
having a news
Not
conference?
publicly. Not publicly. I don't do that. I don't do it with any position on this team. I will not do it.
Was Carson cleared for contact?
He is not.
He has not been
Yeah.
cleared for contact. Okay.
Not yet.
So Doug, I mean, if he hasn't been cleared, is it your decision to even make?
My decision to make?
I mean, if he hasn't been cleared for contact, would it even be
We
your
got
decision?
a lot of days left.
So if he's cleared today or tomorrow, he has enough time to prepare for the Falcons if that was the scenario.
We'll see.
Is your refusal to talk about it based on competitive advantage or just because?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. I'm trying to win a football game, you know? And I don't want to put my game plan out there for everybody to see it and read it, and teams can scheme, and it just doesn't make a lot of sense, you know? So I appreciate it.
Who will take the first team reps today
You have other players who are injured and haven't been able to participate much in the preseason. Carson aside, does that concern you going into a game against a team that's pretty familiar with you and played you pretty well the last time you saw them?
Who are you speaking of?
Jason Peters, Alshon Jeffrey, a couple of the running backs. They haven't been on the field in the preseason. Does it concern you that they haven't been on?
They haven't been on the field in games. They've been in practice. It's a difference. I've held them out of games specifically. Practice is another thing. They've practiced all training camp.
Right. Does it concern you that they didn't play in the games? It's kind of different.
Why? Why do they need to be in the game? I mean, I've answered this question all at training camp. I've held Jason Peters, he's ready to go. I've held Darren Sproles, he's ready to go. They've practiced. They've been in our practice. Practices are a lot tougher sometimes than games are. We've seen everything we need to see.
Because of any of that, are you worried about rust in this game?
From who?
From those guys who haven't played in the games, from guys like Nelson Aguilar who missed practice, from Corey Clement who missed practice, from Matt Collins who missed practice.
Nelson's practiced all week.
Well, he missed a significant portion during training camp.
A couple weeks ago. Yeah. He's back. He's fine.
So you're not worried about rust?
Are you where you want to be going into the opener in terms of guys missing time and so forth? Is it?
I feel really good about where we're at as a football team. I really do. I'm excited about this opportunity Thursday night.
The report that you, after talking to the players, decided to take down the Super Bowl thing in the locker room. Is that true? And what went into that decision?
The decision just to move on, move to 2018.
Did they come to you, or was it just part of the discussion?
A little both.
Doug, when will your quarterbacks talk with media this week? Are you concerned that you're placing them in a situation in which they'll have to answer questions about who's taking which reps?
I'm sure that day will come, yeah. I'm sure. And I'm sure you're probably going to ask.
A bunch of questions about who will be the starting quarterback as well.
That's why I rely on my man here. He does a great job.
But the quarterback whom you've decided upon is taking pretty much all the reps in practice today, tomorrow, and Tuesday. Is that correct?
It's usually how it works, yes.
Doug, you've been around Super Bowl teams both as a player and a coach. You're down to 53 now. How do you feel about this group compared to last year's group coming?
It's a different football team. It's a different vibe. It's a different year. I don't compare last year to this year. We have a 0-0 record, and we've got a great opportunity to compete Thursday night. And we'll find out a lot about our football team this week. But it's different. It's different. The whole thing is different, and that's a good thing. That's positive because you're moving forward. You're progressive. You're never staying the same. And this team is moving forward, and I'm excited about this team Thursday night.
All right, so there you go. Doug Pederson. Really snippy right off the bat. Sarcastically thanking the media for, quote-unquote, putting words into his mouth or whatever when... I don't know. I feel like the reporters then are just trying to be tactful to get to the bottom line here as to whether or not Carson Wentz is going to be... I mean, it's like they have to... All right, is he cleared for practice? And Doug's like, there's still many days ahead or whatever. And it's like, well... If this was a Sunday press conference, many days, I mean, you got Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday night football game. And, they're just kind of taking first-team reps, and whoever's cleared is going to be playing. And he's like, yeah, that's usually how it works. And then Doug brings up the angle of the game plan. And as if I don't know if maybe Doug, if they were hoping that they were going to keep the Falcons guessing as to whether it was going to be Carson Wentz starting or Nick Foles, which obviously likelihood is Nick Foles I don't know. I mean, it's really enraged Doug. And I don't know whether to feel for him or just kind of scratch my head, but ladies and gentlemen, against the media here. That the media, like, a lot of people think, like, the media, a lot of fans, like, the media are just a disturbance. That it's, like, all this stuff is none of their business. It's their job to ask pertinent questions to get answers about these major topics when it comes to our football team and our sports teams in general. That's what the media is there for. They're there to get some more insight on the quarterback situation and on the situation of other players who, according to, they've been held out of the games, but they've supposedly been practicing, as Doug mentioned. Very interesting discussion, I guess, but it's like preseason. I mean, it's like it's a total afterthought. Now, all these starters that I guess could have started, according to Doug, that have been practicing for the most part, held out of preseason games altogether. Except, Nick Foles a little bit, who I guess even when the preseason was starting, many of us suspected, well, he'll probably start the first few games of the regular season. That's not changing the way it sounds right now. Maybe week 3, Carson Wentz is ready to go, but prepared to have Foles for the first 2, maybe 3 games. Very, very interesting. Just to, with how, I don't know, this sort of transformation. And I'll tell you what, the Eagles lose on Thursday. It'll be an interesting post-game press conference with Doug Pederson then too. And speaking of, I gotta say, I'm not feeling great about this game. At least this week 1 game. Not to, I guess, spoil too much of the schedule, but going down the schedule. But I don't know. With Nick Foles out there, and a lot of these guys that are they going to be fully prepared, ready to flip the switch like that? With many of these starters having not played at all in the preseason. And again, this Atlanta Falcons team, they're somewhat of a revenge situation, maybe fresh in their minds. Coming here to Philly again. Maybe this time out to, that was their last real competitive football game. It was that exit in the playoffs against the Philadelphia Eagles. And what was quite a close game that came down to the wire, but Eagles came out on top. We'll come back on the other side. We'll listen to more of this press conference as this Eagles team right now. I mean, Doug, I don't know, has this, I guess, lackluster preseason raised many questions in our minds. And is it maybe getting to Doug a little bit, coming off the heels of that monumental Super Bowl victory? Has the success of last season maybe put this idea in Doug's head that, well, I can do whatever I want now with the media. I can refuse to answer questions or whatever. We'll discuss all that and more right here on this edition of the Tyler Werner Show. Stay tuned for more right after this.
Investigators are calling it the heist of the century. The grand robbery of Brady and Belichick's slow-cooked Italian meatballs, committed by some apparently hungry NFL officials who love their balls.
When I came in Monday morning, I was shocked to learn of the news reports about the balls and the process that happened between when they were prepared and went to the officials and went to the game.
As shocked as Belichick was of the news, perhaps Brady, the last man out of the kitchen on that Sunday night, was even more shocked to hear of the news of the theft.
I have a process that I go through. It was the same process that I always go through. When I felt them, they were perfect. I mean, I wouldn't want anyone touching those. I would zip those things up and lock them away. And that's what I thought I was doing.
As Brady and Belichick up the ante on their ball security, you'll just have to pick up a pack of their meatballs the next time you hit the grocery store and enjoy just how perfect these balls really are.
Tom's personal preferences on his ball security are something that he can talk about in much better detail than I could possibly provide.
Number one box office attraction, number one WWE superstar, multi-time WWE champion, Brock Lesnar.
Time to revamp your office space, eh? Looking for an interior decorator? Look no further than Brock Lesnar.
Now that's the way a real man uses a sledgehammer.
Out with the old, in with the new. Give Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman a call.
Mr. Lesnar, you're the future of interior decorator. LA, we're done.
We're back on this edition of the Tyler Werner Show, ready to ring in the 2018 regular season in the NFL, with the Philadelphia Eagles kicking things off at Lincoln Financial Field against the Atlanta Falcons. How are you feeling about this game? Like I said, I don't know. The whole Nick Foles thing in the preseason. Look, I'm not ready to jump off a cliff over how he's performed but I'm just assuming that we saw the best of Nick Foles in the playoffs, and that he's kind of back to the not so good Nick Foles that maybe we're somewhat more used to seeing. I mean, hey, at the end of the day, I think it's great that he was able to do what he was able to do in the playoffs and the Super Bowl and help deliver this Philadelphia team. It's for help be a key cog in delivering this Eagles fan base the first Super Bowl championship that it's ever seen. But again, at the end of the day, it's a new season, and kind of as mentioned in that press conference with Doug with the whole Super Bowl thing. Like, it's on to 2018 now. I don't know if I don't know. I don't know if maybe that's gotten in his head a little bit or what. Like, it's like, oh well, the celebration, all that, it's kind of over now. It's on to the new season, and people are ready to panic because of the 0-3 start to the preseason or whatever. In Game 4, maybe it doesn't really mean a whole lot. Whatever. I don't know. I can only come up with theories. I mean, we can only come up with theories. But at the end of the day, I don't understand. It's kind of not kind of. It is uncalled for when it comes to the. I mean, he's basically. I don't know if he understands this. I don't know if a lot of fans out there understand this. It's basically like giving the middle finger to the fan base because the media is kind of the gateway here, getting the answers to these pertinent questions, these legitimate questions, to which Doug just refuses to answer. I don't know why he's so hell-bent over addressing this. That's like his, I don't know, something to do with this game plan or whatever, this precious game plan that the Atlanta Falcons cannot know whether it's going to be Foles suiting up or Carson Wentz suiting up. I don't get it. I really don't. Before we hear a little more of this Doug Pederson press conference, maybe as things kind of lighten up a little bit with it. Philly's now 3 games behind as of Tuesday night's matchup against Miami Marlins, their 9-4 win. I mean, 3 games behind the Braves for the division lead. Both teams 4-6 in their last 10. So the Phillies, they're hanging in there for the division race, but as far as a wild card goes, it doesn't seem like that they're in position to cut it for that right now. I don't know, but like I said, like I kind of said last week, I mean, they're coming back down to earth a little bit, I guess. At the end of the day, they don't quite have enough, maybe, and they're not. Maybe they're reverting a little bit more into what we expected them to be. But at the end of the day, I mean, this is kind of a progress year. They're going to, at least they should win. Maybe around 85 games. We'll see. Let's see. We still got the 24 to go, if my math served me correctly. 24 games. So yeah, if they go 500 at 85 wins, I mean, not bad. That's a decided improvement over last season, and maybe a little more so than what many of us thought. So they're heading in the right direction. That's kind of all we can say. But here we are. All in all, regardless, shifting into the month of September now, another regular season in the NFL. I mean, can you believe it's here? I mean, this preseason, like I've said before, I'm just bring on the regular season already. And I think that's what Doug's been thinking too. Just like forget all this. However we've looked in the preseason, forget playing a lot of our starters in the preseason. Whatever, we'll keep practicing and whatnot. And that's all well and dandy, but bring on the regular season. So maybe, in that regard, maybe Doug and I are on the same page. Who knows?
I agree.
Let's see here. Let's get back to this press conference from Sunday. It's going to reload on me. I hate that. Go to one tab and suddenly you have to totally change. You have to go back. You have to reload it and get to where you were previously. Let's see here. All right. Get the volume cranking up, and we'll get this going. momentarily here on the Tyler Werner Show. Pick up just about where we left off on the Doug Pederson press conference when he was addressing the media on Sunday. So here we go.
And this team is moving forward, and I'm excited about this team Thursday night.
The roster decisions, Howie was saying how, Stephen Means was a tough call. Can you talk about some of the other ones?
I mean, it's the nature of the business. You're trying to get to 53. You're trying to find the best 53. There are some tough decisions that have to be made. Obviously, Stephen's one of them. What he's meant to this football team. And, and a lot of times, as I've said before, this comes down to possibly a special teams issue, being able to play on teams. And some of the young players that we end up releasing possibly can come back on practice squad and all of that. And those are all the things we're working through, these next few days.
How was Jay Ajayi doing?
Great.
Yes.
How much have you watched film of the playoff win over the Falcons? And do you feel like, defensively, that's what you're going to see again this week with Dan Quinn and his cover 3?
Yeah, I mean, it was a great game. Number one, great football team that we're going up against. I think they might feel like, with the amount of, especially defensively, the amount of starters coming back. I mean, it's a good defense, good team, good scheme. It's a great challenge. I've watched the game a couple times, but I've also watched a bunch of other games. Not only ours, but the ones they've played in the past and preseason and. And I bet you Coach Quinn's saying the same thing, that it's a different team, different season. A lot of things obviously can happen, but it's a great opportunity for both teams this Thursday.
Is it helpful to have that game because you don't have regular season film from them this year?
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. We've played them the last 2 years. They kind of know us. We kind of know them a little bit, so it doesn't really matter.
With a defense like that plays a lot of the same coverages, what are the challenges as a game planner to kind of find new ways to attack them, or compared to what they see on a weekly basis?
The biggest challenge really is because it's a really good defense, and because they don't do a lot defensively, they kind of just line up and make you march down the field. I mean, those have always been tough defenses to scheme against, and it takes a lot of detail in route running. Obviously, it starts up front with the offensive line, protection, the run game. But we can look back on things we've done well against them, things that other teams have done, and really going into the first game, you don't want to, because emotions are running, juices are flowing kind of high. You want to keep things as sort of simple as possible, so your guys can cut it loose and play.
Doug, we talked about game day communication a little bit, the change from Frank and John to Mike and Press. How do you think that has gone for you in the preseason? And do you think you're ready for Thursday night?
It's gone well. Part of the preseason process is to work out communication between the coaches and even the coaches that have been here before. Some of the roles have changed. Some of the duties have changed on game day offensively based on what we've done in the past. And it's just each week got better and better. The communication's great. Mike does a great job of grabbing information from the staff and then bringing it to me during the course of the game. While maybe I'm on defense, watching and listening to the defensive calls. So it's been a really good process. And Press does a good job upstairs with the quarterbacks and talking to them and, keeping me kind of informed as to what the defense has been doing, previous series before, things like that. So it's been pretty flawless.
What sort of role do you envision for DeAndre Carter? Is there a chance he'll be active Thursday?
Well, there's always a chance. He's first of all, he did a nice job in preseason for us, the games he's played, and it's a role that we can put him in some situations to be effective, use his skill set, and it's hard to say how many touches or if he's going to be active, but at the same time he'll get some work with the offense this week. Primarily, but he's a guy that, we've come to find out he can really handle multiple positions, inside and outside. So we'll probably try to move him around this week in practice some.
If you don't have Alshon, it's a pretty inexperienced group of receivers behind Nelson. What gives you confidence about this group? A lot of them haven't played a lot of football.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great opportunity for them, and I'm looking forward to getting out there with them and getting to work today and getting them prepared. And Mike Wallace has a lot of experience. Nelly's played a lot. You got Zach Ertz has played a lot. Sproles has played a lot. So we've got some other guys that can help, kind of pick up that slack.
Doug, what tone do you want to set for your team this week? Starting a new season, practice week.
Yeah, I mean, I think just this week, the way we handle our business, this is kind of the second time since training camp, 1 week in training camp, and now this being the second week that our starters will practice together, the game plan, and so we've got to maintain a level of physicality up front with both lines, offense and defensively. This type of team that we're playing is a physical team, and they pride themselves in the run game offensively with big shot, play action, pass capability. I think their quarterback is obviously a tremendous quarterback, and Julio Jones, we know what he is, and all of that. And we have to match that same physicality, going into a game like this.
All right, so there he was, Doug Pederson on Sunday. The second portion there, definitely a little more, I guess, the Doug that we're used to, a little more, forthcoming about things and even keel, and unlike the beginning of that press conference where Doug was just refusing to answer questions about the quarterback situation and yada yada, and stuff like that. So,
I appreciate y'all putting words in my mouth this week.
Yes. And not quite along those lines. At least later on in the press conference, there's things kind of dispersed when it came to the whole question about who wasn't playing in the preseason games and who's it going to be? Is it going to be Foles or Wentz and yada yada? So I don't know, but there was Doug Pederson for you this past Sunday.
I just felt comfortable, confident and comfortable.
All right, we'll take another break here in the Tyler Werner Show because we have to go down the schedule. Once again, we did it like we usually do back when the schedule came out first, back in the spring. I guess shortly before the draft, usually around that time. And now, as we always do before we have Philadelphia Eagles take on the Atlanta Falcons, we'll go down the schedule, figure out where, see wins and losses here and there, figure out about where I have this Eagles team finishing record-wise, and maybe how that stacks up against the rest of the NFC. And talk about a little more of this Week 1 matchup against the Atlanta Falcons. I don't know, little hesitant because of the whole, these starters not playing in I feel like the Falcons, they just might be a little more prepared in this first game. Maybe they're a little more adept having turn the switch on, the game day switch on in the preseason already. With a lot of these Eagles starters haven't really done that so much. And this first game might smack them in the face, at least on offense, especially. Maybe to some extent on defense, but this Eagles defense, like Doug would say, I feel comfortable with.
I just felt comfortable, confident and comfortable.
In the early going here in the regular season. I'm just not. I know the Eagles have talent, but Receiving-wise, without Alshon Jeffrey out there, Mike Wallace, he hasn't shown so much thus far. And then Nick Foles out there, I don't know, this offensive line, are they going to be ready to go? We'll see. Back with more here on the Tyler Werner Show right after this. Stay tuned for more on this edition of the Tyler Werner Show.
I'll have some skirt steak, some brisket, little piece of that New York steak, a couple of them steak fingers, and a burger.
You've known for a long time that you were going to have to get real about fat or stay real fat. It didn't get that way by accident or by some outsider's doing.
Put some macaroni and cheese on there, too. Is there any chicken fried steak left?
Your weight just keeps creeping up or maybe even shooting sky high.
3 slices of pecan pie and 2 cups of coffee.
You have a decision to make. You know it, and so do I.
Yes, all right.
You need prescription diet pills or other diet aids to lose weight.
Attention parents. Is your under 18-year-old daughter being cyber-stalked by a man who identifies themselves as a grown adult male?
I want to meet you and fool around. Are you up to meeting tonight, hon? I think I would like to shower with you. We can do it in the shower, too.
If so, you need to contact Chris Hansen Company to bust these online cyber-stalkers.
How are you tonight? Why don't you have a seat there and get comfortable for that? I guess you're going to tell me next that this is the very first time you've done something like this.
Chris Hansen and the Dateline crew will take care of it. Contact us, and we will put an end to the cyber stalking that your daughter is experiencing.
Well, there's something you got to know. I am Chris Hansen with Dateline NBC, and we're doing a story on computer predators.
Busted!
Oh yes, ladies and gentlemen, it is football season. Philadelphia Eagles taking on the Atlanta Falcons. And without further ado, it is time to go through the schedule for the season.
Oh, man!
Once again. As we're all ready to go, we're all set. Everybody's probably got their fantasy lineups ready to go. Maybe you have Zach Ertz on your team like I do. Tight end spot. Maybe kicker Matt Bryant. Whoever else you may have. It begins, and we begin by going down the schedule as the Eagles kick things off with the Atlanta Falcons. Thursday Night Football. Revenge situation. And I gotta say, well, I don't think we're going to see the Nick Foles that we've seen in preseason. I gotta say, I'm a little hesitant that this Eagles team is maybe not quite entirely ready to take on the Atlanta Falcons in Thursday Night Football. So as we go down the schedule, revenge situation, Atlanta Falcons, I think they're going to come in here raring to go against an Eagles team that is not, I guess, fully suited up, maybe personnel-wise, as well as energy-wise. So I'm gonna go with a loss to start the season. But we won't dread too much on that because I think the next couple of games, you got the Eagles visiting the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and then the Eagles hosting the Indianapolis Colts. Maybe that Colts game, I think maybe Carson Wentz is going to be back. But I think regardless, the Eagles are going to then go on, bounce back, beat the Buccaneers, maybe steamroll them for that matter, after a loss against the Falcons. And then again, another win against the Colts. So that'll put the Eagles at 2-1 as I see it. Now, to close out the month of September, they got a game at the Tennessee Titans. And I think this is... the next week they have the Minnesota Vikings at home. I have a feeling this might be a look-ahead situation against the Titans. I think that the Eagles are going to lose to the Titans. Again, we got Carson Wentz back in the mix, but maybe still getting back up to speed with playing. And I think the Titans are decent. It's going to be a road game, and I think it's going to be a look-ahead situation when they got the Minnesota Vikings the following. So I'm going to say the Eagles lose on the road against the Tennessee Titans week 4, but then come back next week against the Minnesota Vikings, who, yes, they blew out. I know it's a revenge situation, but the Eagles are well aware of that, and I think the Eagles are going to come into this game raring to go, and I think they're going to beat the Vikings again. Smack Kirk Cousins around on the defensive side of the ball, and it's not. I don't think it's going to be one of these one-sided blowouts again like it was. I mean, there's different teams, but regardless, I think the Eagles get the win here against the Minnesota Vikings in a good, hard-nosed, competitive football game at Lincoln Financial Field Week 5. So that puts the Eagles at 3-2. The following week on the road against the New York Giants, a quick turnaround, Thursday night football game. And I think the Giants, they're going to be improved, but I don't think they're going to be improved enough to beat this Eagles team, even in their own building, the New York Giants building, that is. So I think the Eagles, Carson Wentz here is going to be, I think he's going to be back. I think he's going to be back in the swing of things by this point in the season. And on Thursday Night Football, I have the Eagles defeating the New York Giants. So that puts the Eagles at 4-2. Little extended break when the Eagles host the Carolina Panthers then. A few extra days of rest for the Philadelphia Eagles. Panthers, again, maybe a middle-of-the-pack team. And I think the Eagles hand the Panthers a loss. So here we go. 3 straight wins for the Philadelphia Eagles. Puts them at 5-2. Following week, the game overseas in England. Eagles, Jaguars. This is supposed to be like a de facto Jacksonville Jaguars home game here, but it's really not a home game for anybody, so whatever. But Eagles, Jaguars, neutral field. I'm taking the Eagles. We'll see how the Jaguars do this year. I mean, I don't know if they call a little bit of lightning in a bottle. I actually think that the division, I mean, it might go to the Texans, it might go to the Titans. I don't know. But that division could be a little competitive this year. So I take the Eagles. I think the Eagles are going to be ready to go over in England and take care of business against the Jaguars. I don't know if the Jaguars are going to be quite as good as they were last year. I think it might be like an Oakland Raiders situation where the Raiders, they looked like a contender the one season, and then since they just haven't been able to recapture that kind of magic. So we'll see. But Eagles win there, puts them at 6-2, and then bye week, coming out of their bye week then, November 11th, another night game. The Philadelphia Eagles host the Dallas Cowboys. Eagles are going to be well rested, ready to go.
Gotta give these gangster ass.
And I think they're going to come out and hand the Dallas Cowboys a loss for the first division matchup against each other. So that's 5 straight wins for the Philadelphia Eagles, putting them at 7-2. And having said that, the following week they go on the road to take on the New Orleans Saints, and that's where the Eagles finally lose another game after a nice run. Eagles lose to the Saints down in the Big Easy, and that would put the Eagles at 7-3. But it was, good 5-game run before that. But it's, of course, it's got to end against the New Orleans Saints. Next week, Eagles bounce back when they host the New York Giants. Thanksgiving week. Eagles beat the Giants, puts them back on the winning track, 8-3. The next week, they host the Washington Redskins. Night football, I don't think much of the Redskins, I don't know if anybody else does this year. But Eagles defeat the Redskins. Puts the Eagles at 9-3. But then the following week, they go on the road against the Dallas Cowboys. Cowboys maybe getting a little desperate at this point, and Eagles go on the road and they lose against the Dallas Cowboys. Puts the Eagles at 9-4. And then the following week, the Eagles once again visit the Los Angeles Rams. Perhaps a somewhat improved Rams team. I mean, you got to say.
Got to give you a few days to rest.
And a few extra days rest, maybe. I don't know. But I'm not feeling it. Eagles on the road. Well, they don't get a few days extra rest. That was a misfired soundbite, apparently. But Eagles lose to the Rams, and that could be a crucial one in terms of just like the one last season was with the Rams. Big swing that could very well determine who gets home field advantage in the playoffs or just playoff implications in general. So, Eagles lose to the Rams. That puts them at 9-5. Then the next week they bounce back and they host the Houston Texans. That puts them at 10-5. And then to close out the season, the Redskins at that point on the road for the Philadelphia Eagles. I would think the Redskins are kind of going to be dead at that point. Maybe they're going to try to play spoiler role, but they're not going to spoil the last game of the regular season for the Philadelphia Eagles. And that would put the Eagles at an 11-5 finish. So there you have it, folks. I don't know if... I believe maybe I came up with 12-4 in the past. When I went over the schedule, right when it came out. But I'm feeling 11-5. I could any of these given games. I mean, especially during that 5-game win streak that I have with the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, they could lose that one to the Jaguars. They could lose on the road against the Giants. Minnesota could come here and win. So, I mean, if a couple things go wrong, I mean, the Eagles could easily very well wind up 9-7. But as I see it now, I see an 11-5 finish for the Philadelphia Eagles. It's not going to get home field advantage. I think, we're seeing a Rams team that's probably going to win 12 games, maybe get home field advantage. We're seeing a Packers team that very well, with Aaron Rodgers back in the fold, maybe healthy, who I drafted as my fantasy quarterback for this year. And I believe I had last year, and of course had to replace due to a season-ending, an injury that was originally season-ending, and they tried to bring him back later in the season, but that wasn't really necessary when evidently, the Packers, they just couldn't really make the playoffs later on in the season. They were pretty much eliminated from the mix. So then at that point, just sit Aaron Rodgers the rest of the way. But this year I'm hoping for a healthy Aaron Rodgers. I'm sure many of us who have Aaron Rodgers as our fantasy quarterback is going to hope he stays healthy this year. So, the Packers could be in that mix. I mean, they could win 11, 12 games with healthy Aaron Rodgers. Definitely 12 wins. Again, the Vikings, they could be a 12-win team. I was reading in Sports recent edition of Sports Illustrated, and it kind of predictions. I mean, it kind of has a lot like I envisioned. The Eagles 11-5, Rams 12-4, I believe. I believe it has the Vikings 12-4, Packers 11-5, Saints 11-5. Saints might win 12 games this year. I mean, they got weaponry, that's for sure. Falcons are going to be in the mix. It's a competitive NFC, folks. And like I said, it's in this day and age, it's hard to repeat Super Bowl winning magic the following year. So I would love to see. I mean, that's not to say I'm not, looking forward to this season, because I don't think the Eagles are going to repeat. I mean, they very well have a chance to repeat. In some regards, they might be better on paper than they were last year with their full lineup out there. But on paper doesn't necessarily always translate to, well, they win another Super Bowl. I mean, just ask any of the last 14 teams before the Eagles that won the Super Bowl and weren't able to repeat. Maybe it was 13, I don't know. I mean, if you do the math, you figure the 03-04 Patriots teams that repeated. Since then, we haven't had a repeat Super Bowl champion. I mean, we've seen the Seahawks go back the year after winning the Super Bowl, but repeats are just hard. It's hard. But nevertheless, any given Sunday, right? So we are going to see how things play out this season. And at the very least, the Eagles, they don't win it all this year again. I mean, a healthy Carson Wentz in the mix. This team has pieces and has a coach that suddenly really doesn't like discussing his personnel decisions with the media, apparently. But I'm happy to have Mr. Doug Pederson as our head coach, nevertheless.
That is why keep chopping the wood.
Let's hope he can lead this team to victory Thursday night against the Atlanta Falcons and throughout the season. We'll talk about it all here on the Tyler Werner Show, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for tuning in. And we'll go Eagles. We'll discuss next week, break down the Week 1 matchup. Philadelphia Eagles taking on the Atlanta Falcons. And then we'll look forward to the Week 2 matchup when the Eagles take on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So everybody, thanks for tuning in. We'll talk to you next time on the Tyler Werner Show.
On the road to victory. Fly, Eagles fly. Score a touchdown, 1, 2, 3. Hit 'em low, hit 'em high, and watch our Eagles fly. Fly, Eagles fly. On the road to victory. E-A-G-L-E-S, Eagles!